This one was the most insulting one so far. Nothing of actual substance was offered, and the Easter eggs are fucking apocalyptic. I don't know how you can watch this show and not feel at least somewhat insulted by what they're doing here. You see, we are the baby, and they are entertaining us with baby entertainment. And before you start typing and say how ridiculous that is, keep in mind that this episode literally had a giant crib mobile of classic Star Trek ships for you to marvel at. Let's just get into it. The Shrike and some Starfleet ships are looking for the Titan. No doubt the Starfleet ships are being controlled by changelings. They can't seem to track them down, and Vadik goes on a bit of a tirade. She says that their brothers and sisters suffer each day having to wear the faces of the Federation, and that they will have vengeance. Okay. Why did she assign genders to changelings? Brothers and sisters? Changelings don't really have a gender. They're sentient goo. Some of them may appear feminine or masculine depending on the actors playing them, but it's very strange for a changeling to refer to other changelings as brothers and sisters. And what the hell are her crew anyway, honestly? Are we ever going to get a real answer to that? I'm guessing they're changelings of some sort also, because she says the brothers and sisters line to them. And then she kills one of them. Remember when no changeling has ever harmed another was a thing? I guess that's out the window. And I can only assume that there's a hierarchy of some sort with various offshoots of changelings with different abilities. And I'm guessing her crew are like, the peons, the ones that get no respect. But it's never explained. And I have no idea why she's even holding this form on her ship. She doesn't have to look human at this point. She just looks like a whatever person she took the shape of, that's what she looks like all the time. I don't get it. And in any case, she wants all the names and associates that are close to Jean-Luc Picard. Seems like she'd have that already, especially once we see what the big reveal of this episode is. But whatever. She ends her cornball speech, and that's most of the mustache twirling we see for this episode. And on the Titan, Beverly tells Picard that Jack has Irumodic syndrome, which he inherited from Picard, of course. That might explain some of his delusions, but it doesn't explain how he can turn into Jason Bourne when the plot demands it. And it's hard to believe that Beverly never checked him for Irumodic syndrome before, knowing that his father has it as well. It's also weird that he's showing symptoms at age 35. 23 or whatever the fuck he's supposed to be. Sorry, I get confused. But whatever. Doesn't matter. Nothing in this show does. So Picard talks to Jack. He finds him, of course, having a drink in this fucking bar again. I hate this bar so much. They must just have easy access to this set or something, or they just love it, or maybe there's real booze on it. That's why they love hanging out on it so much. It's the only explanation, because surely the Titan has its own version of 10 Forward somewhere, right? They must have an actual bar on this ship. But we'd rather continue showing this drab, uninspired dive bar. And Jack is upset about his diagnosis. Understandable. And he asks Picard how he survived Irumodic syndrome. And Picard says he didn't, referring, of course, to his android body. I'm a little surprised that this season has actually acknowledged that Picard is indeed a synthetic person. And it will further acknowledge it at the end of this episode. So I suppose that I have to give it some credit there. As much as I hate the idea that this happened to Picard, I think it's pretty stupid that he, still has a frail old man body when he could just have a fresh one. I also think that the fact that they've basically ignored it up until now has been almost a complete cop-out. But They are acknowledging it, so credit to them. And Jack finishes his drink and storms off. And he will be completely fine for the rest of this episode, like almost chipper. It's really fucking weird. And they rendezvous with Worf and Raffi. They beam aboard. It's a nice little reunion, I guess. I felt nothing. And they discuss what's going on in the briefing room. They have 48 hours until Frontier Day, where there will be no doubt some sort of attack perpetrated by the changelings with whatever they took from the Daystrom station. Vadik apparently stole a handful of stuff as a distraction from what she really stole, or what she really intends to use. So they want to go to Daystrom and get a hold of the manifest and hopefully find out exactly what was taken. And Picard says the word burgle. And Riker says, excellent use of the word burgle, which is a joke, but it's also the writer patting himself on the back. And this Daystrom facility is protected by a supposedly lethal AI. But they have a magic key they got from Kryn that will hopefully circumvent it. Seems odd that they could use the same method to break in twice, but I guess they're gonna. So Riker and Worf and Raffi beam over to the Daystrom station. They disable the security before the Star Trek version of the Ed 209 shoots them. But some bad guy Starfleet ships show up, and the Titan has to leave them there. Picard orders Ensign LaForge to set a course for Athen Prime, which I guess must be really close, because he tells Riker that they'll be back in less than an hour. I have no idea why the Starfleet ships can't pursue them, but they don't. And on the Daystrom station, it's Easter Egg City. I mean, it's just... First of all, why is nobody even here? I mean, there's no flesh and blood beings here. It's just an abandoned station. And second of all, why is it called the Daystrom Station? The Daystrom Institute is a scientific research facility, and it's a school, and it has locations in various places throughout the Federation. But why is a space station, which is basically the Star Trek version of Area 51, why is it called Daystrom? Oh, right, because it's an Easter egg. It's a lockbox full of Easter eggs, so I guess its name might as well be an Easter egg. And I find all sorts of shit that is meant to get your little geeky hearts racing. Riker sees the Genesis device, Genesis 2, which I guess they built another one and just stuck it in a locker. And Raffi notices the remains of Captain Kirk. Why is Kirk's dead body being held under lock and key for analysis? Oh, that's right. Just another fucking Easter egg. And you're supposed to lose your shit over it. And of course, there's also a killer Tribble that scares Worf. Easter eggs aplenty. And then Moriarty shows up. Naturally. He's guarding the manifest somehow. And Riker disables him by whistling Pop Goes the Weasel, because that is the tune that Data couldn't master in the pilot episode Encounter at Farpoint, which of course is yet another reference to pull at your heartstrings. And the big reveal is that it wasn't actually Moriarty guarding the manifest, it was Data, or at least a new version of Data. So that's just great. And we shoot back over to the Titan. They arrive at this Athen Prime where the Fleet Museum is apparently located. So this episode effectively takes place in two locations. One is a glorified museum designed to massage your nostalgia muscles. And the other is an actual museum designed to massage your nostalgia muscles. And we get a quick glimpse of all these legendary starships, but don't worry, they will come back to them later. I mean, how could they avoid it? They can't help themselves. And Geordi appears on screen. Geordi. He seems to be in charge of the Fleet Museum. I don't know why. Seems like a complete fucking waste of his talents. He beams aboard the Titan with his other daughter, Alondra. And Geordi seems completely out of character. He is described by his daughters, Sydney and Alondra, as being stubborn. He even describes himself that way. He doesn't want to help Picard. He doesn't seem to even care that much that the changelings have infiltrated Starfleet. And he's portrayed as this overbearing father that is constantly in conflict with his daughters. Does that sound like Geordi to you? I've been critical of Geordi on this channel, but I will say this. He might be one of the least stubborn characters on TNG. I mean, there's a reason why Data gravitates toward him. Geordi is usually one of the most easygoing, nice characters on TNG, at least when he's not on a date. And I just think it's really out of character for Geordi. And Geordi's other daughter, Alondra, explains that every ship in Starfleet is now fully integrated, meaning that they can kind of talk to each other. She says the Titan is a beacon that will alert other Starfleet ships. Okay, if that's true, why doesn't Shaw or Seven know about that? They seem surprised that other ships keep finding them. I mean, it makes no sense. Tell me I'm crazy. I can understand Picard not being aware of that. He's been out of the loop for a while. But why doesn't Shaw know? I don't want to spend too much time on that because there's bigger fish to fry in this episode, but that's just silly. It's really silly. And then we get another fucking nostalgia circle jerk. Seven and Jack are admiring all the ships at the Fleet Museum. We see the Defiant, an old original series Constitution class ship, the Enterprise A, Voyager, the HMS Bounty, Bird of Prey from Star Trek IV. It's fucking horrendous. And as I said, Jack seems just fine. It's like nothing is even bothering him anymore. It's like that last scene with him in the bar took place in a totally different episode. And Seven tells him that they had a hell of a time finding the HMS Bounty because the cloaking device reactivated after it crashed in San Francisco Bay. Which, that didn't fucking happen. But she has to say that because we, the audience, are deemed too stupid to remember that it has a cloaking device. And that gives Jack an idea. He wants to steal the cloaking device from the Klingon Bird of Prey. I mean, would it even still work against today's sensors? Why don't they steal the cloaking device from the fucking Defiant? That one is only 20, 25 years old and is actually compatible with Starfleet designs. Doesn't that make more sense? Or better yet, steal the fucking Defiant. It may be a few decades old, but at least it's a fucking warship. And I guarantee it can hold its own better than the dogshit Titan, which has utterly failed to live up to its name. It's a garbage ship. Then again, if they stole the Defiant, it would just be an even bigger nostalgia suckfest than what we're dealing with already. But it's certainly more practical than stealing the cloaking device of a 100-year-old ship. And on the Daystrom station, they examine this new hybrid Data, and a hologram of Alton Sung is activated. He explains that this android is a combination of Data, Lore, B4, Lal, and Dr. Sung. So that's nice. And Raffi wonders why Starfleet is using this insane AI to guard its deepest secrets. Riker says it's more sophisticated than anything they can come up with. Yeah, okay, fine. But they're still using Data as a glorified security guard. And it doesn't even work. This has been circumvented at least twice. And I gotta wonder how the fuck this Kryn guy got past the Moriarty hologram, unless he figured out the fucking Pop Goes the Weasel song to use as a password. It's exhausting. And they eventually find out that Data isn't guarding the manifest. He is the manifest. So they want to take him with them. And you can also see a dismembered, naked Sung-type android. I assume it's B4. And you can see he's got no genitals. He's a Ken doll. So I guess he's not fully functional after all. I mean, not if that's what you're working with. Walking around with Aaron Judge's athletic cup for a nutsack. That's not going to work for anybody. And back over on the Titan, Shaw is starstruck by Geordi. And Geordi says he would be happy to geek out with Shaw over how great the Titan is another time, or something along those lines. First of all, the Titan sucks. It's a failure of a ship. It is incapable of doing anything other than running away. And it is designed with the intention of making you feel nostalgic, just like every other thing in this show. And it's funny to see Shaw revere Geordi. For a guy who hates heroes, he sure doesn't seem to have a problem kissing Geordi's ass. And that's because he's a character with zero conviction. He's a little rat. That's all he is. Moving on. And suddenly the Titan cloaks, but it's malfunctioning. Jack and the LaForge sisters are trying to install the cloaking device, and Geordi says to Picard that this violates a multitude of Federation treaties. Why? The fucking Treaty of Algernon cannot possibly still be in effect. The Romulans are decimated. Or did we forget about that? I wouldn't be surprised. And Geordi finally agrees to help. He fixes the cloaking device, and he lets his daughter stay on the Titan. I have no idea why Geordi had such an issue helping. It makes no sense. He says he wants to protect his family, seemingly not realizing that he and his family are in danger no matter where they are or what they're doing. Starfleet is compromised by a group of super changelings. What are you not understanding? It was just insufferable. And it's total character assassination on the part of Geordi. It's really despicable. And before you say something like, Eddie, it's called a character arc. Yeah, I know. It's not a good one. It's an unnatural character arc that makes him look stupid. In any case, the Titan heads back to the Daystrom station. It shows up uncloaked and then cloaks. So, all the other Starfleet ships instantly know they're there, or at least they should. It totally defeats the purpose. And Seven says that they have to decloak in order to beam them aboard, which is nonsense. I've never seen a ship in Star Trek with a cloak that needed to decloak in order to transport anybody. This cloaking device, this 100-year-old cloaking device, beamed up Kirk and the whale lady while cloaked. So that's total bullshit. So this dog shit ship is apparently incapable of doing what a 100-year-old bird of prey was capable of doing. A 100-year-old bird of prey that was a bucket of bolts when it was new, by the way. Anyway, they beam them up along with Data, but Riker gets captured. And Data reveals the big dangerous weapon that the changeling stole. It was Picard's dead body. His human remains. Why was that at Daystrom? Does it have something to do with his Borg implants? I don't know. And I don't think I care. And then Data starts changing personalities. He goes from Lore to B4 to Sung. It's really silly because he announces it every time there's a change.
I'm Lore. I am B4. I'm Sung. No.
Let me get into character. Okay, I'm McBain.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And then Vadik shows up, posing as a Starfleet officer, and brings Riker to the Shrike. He says he won't reveal where the Titan is, but then Troy is revealed, and she's obviously going to be threatened if he doesn't talk. Although I don't know why Riker would even believe that it's actually Troy. I mean, these are changelings on a changeling ship. Whether it's really Troy or not, I hope Riker has doubts, because if he doesn't, he's an idiot. And that's how the episode ends. Worst one yet. I just don't understand. I really don't want to attack or belittle anyone who is enjoying this, because a lot of people are enjoying it. And that's great. But I do not understand what they're getting out of this. Most people are fawning over the nostalgia elements. They like it. Very few people are actually talking about the story. Even though the story itself is a nostalgia element. Don't try to tell me that we haven't been here before. We got another mustache-twirling villain who has infiltrated Starfleet. We've done this. That was the whole plot of season 1. Replace the Romulans with the Changelings, and so far, it's basically the same thing. And it wasn't even new when they did it then. Deep Space Nine did this. Even TNG did this for one episode with those bug people. This is not a new Star Trek story. And part of me just wants to ask people to try to ask themselves why they got into Star Trek in the first place. Before nostalgia could even be a hook. Before it was even a factor. What was the reason you started and kept watching Star Trek? And are you seeing any of that here? Because I'm certainly not. I see nothing of the Next Generation show here. Except for the familiar faces and references. But the core of what TNG was isn't here. It's shallow. The irony of the Changelings being the villains of this season is just perfect because the show itself is a changeling. It looks like Star Trek at times, and it even can make you feel like Star Trek. A few familiar notes from classic Star Trek scores, a couple of familiar visuals and references, but there's nothing below the surface. It's superficial. It's changeling goo. Anyway, sorry for going on another rant. Let me know what you thought of this one. We got 4 more episodes left, so let's just get through it. And until next time, take it easy.